When I was getting ready to finish all of my flight training and finish my flight instructor license, I was praying about what the Lord had for me in the next step. I didn't really have too much of a plan, to be honest. It was where I was so much farther than I ever thought I could get, and it was all God. My favorite part of working with this ministry is the emphasis on like discipleship and how it's not just flying, because flying is awesome, but there's like a real purpose. My name's Morgan, and I grew up in a Christian home. I got saved at a pretty young age, and when I graduated high school, I was heading in a totally different direction. I was pursuing like an English major, an English degree. The Lord closed all those doors, and so I started looking into other options. But aviation was so expensive. It was something that I enjoy. Like I love to fly, but I didn't think I could pursue it because of the financial restrictions, because it's so expensive. So, but I started taking some steps of faith, just praying about what the Lord would have. And he started opening doors financially in pretty miraculous ways. So I had people through college, through my flight training, randomly come up to me and just say, the Lord put it on my heart to give you this money for your aviation training. I had no money in college. I was dirt poor, but the Lord would just provide like every need every time. I remember running out of laundry soap of all things, and I didn't have money for laundry soap. And I went into our shared laundry room with like the apartment complex's shared laundry room. And there was a bottle of laundry soap with my name written on it in a Sharpie. And I was just like, okay, God, like you provide everything, even laundry soap. So I just seen the Lord's provision through my flight training. He got me through all the way to my flight instructor license, and I knew that it was him that had given me these licenses because I could have never done it on my own. When I was getting ready to finish all of my flight training and finish my flight instructor license, I was praying about what the Lord had for me in the next step. I didn't really have too much of a plan, to be honest. It was where I was so much farther than I ever thought I could get, and it was all God. So I was praying about where the Lord would have me, and I found out through Wings of Grace about Inspiration Aviation Ministries and up in Maine, and I came up here to visit for a summer camp, was able to help out a little bit at the summer camp, and then went home and decided I was going to move up here, and the Lord continued to provide. Our mission here is to share the gospel. We want to share the gospel here in Maine. We want to outreach to teens in Maine. So our program is tailored towards teenagers, and we want to get teens involved in aviation and then also be able to share the gospel with them or encourage them in their walk with God. So but also we would like to send out missionary pilots. Being a missionary and a pilot, it's very like niche type of job, but it's also very needed. Not very many people do it. So if that's something that is on your heart, maybe to be a missionary, but also to, if you like aviation, you can combine those things. I didn't even know missionary pilots were a thing until a few years ago. So you might not even know that's a thing until now. So hopefully, if our goal is to send out missionaries, but also to minister here in Maine in like a discipleship type of way to teens here in Maine, and give teens an opportunity to pursue a flight career when they might not be able to have that opportunity otherwise. So a missionary pilot is somebody who works overseas to take missionaries from one place to another. A lot of remote areas like in Africa, Indonesia, those type of island areas where there's not good transportation. Other types of transportation would be like by foot over mountains, or with like Indonesia with islands and things like that, from one island to another, like by boat and then by foot. So there's aviation is one of the only like ways to get from one place to another in any short amount of time. Basically, missionary pilots, they serve missionaries by helping with transportation. They also help with like medical evacuation if somebody has a medical emergency.
they won't survive a 5-day walking trip to the nearest hospital. And so a flight might be, the missionary pilot might be the difference between life and death for somebody who has a medical emergency out in the bush. And so the missionary pilots are a support. They're like a tech support type of person for the missionaries. And a lot of times they are also missionaries to the people that they're working with. So that it's more than just being a chauffeur. You're sharing the gospel with the people who you're flying with. And so they are missionaries on the ground. They're just working more of a technical position rather than maybe doing like translation or some of those other things. So they're in a lot of ways a support to missionaries, but they're also missionaries in their own right.
My favorite part of working with this ministry is the emphasis on like discipleship and how it's not just flying, because flying is awesome, but there's like a real purpose. And I get to work with the teens doing flight training and ground school. It's been really neat to see the connections with the families and also with the teens that are, each individual teen is going through something unique and difficult. Everybody's struggling through something. And so to be able to encourage them in whatever they're going through is by far my favorite part of the whole thing, because it makes a real difference. And I know when I was that age, I needed people to do that for me. So just having the opportunity to pour into people's lives. I am the flight instructor for Inspiration Aviation Ministries right now. So I do flight training, I do ground school lessons with the teens. A big part of our Christian walk is just stepping out in faith and obedience, whether that's like what job we do or who we're hanging out with or whatever. And so by just trusting the Lord in the move up here, I left. All my family still lives in Florida. All of my friends, I had lived in Florida for 24 years and just up and moved. So it was a big transition to move, just uproot my life and come up here. But in that step of faith, the Lord has made Maine my home. I love it here. I've seen just God bless as we step out in faith, like as I've stepped out in faith and just obedience, even when it doesn't really make any sense. And people around me were saying, why are you moving? You don't have any money. What are you doing? And then just seeing God's faithfulness as he provided, as he came through in so many ways, bringing relationships, good church family, financial provision, all those things that it's just been sweet to see God's faithfulness as stepping out in faith, but also in the ministry here, specifically at I Am. It's been really neat to see God working in ways that are beyond my abilities, and as the Lord is bringing people in to help with the ministry, and in ways that to be able to do things that I could never do. So it's like he's expanding the ministry beyond the people who are working here. It's like greater than the sum of its parts in a lot of ways. Just seeing God's hand on it as he's like multiplying what I've been doing, what the other volunteers have been doing, and like seeing the impact also on individual kids. It's really neat to see like the relationships that are being built. And that's a huge encouragement for me to be able to see like a teenager who needs a word of encouragement, and then we have a flight lesson and God just provides. Normally it's just a listening ear, actually, just being able to be somebody who can listen and encourage somebody. So like those things are a huge encouragement to me as well. As I'm seeing God work through I Am and through the other volunteers, it's really exciting to be a part of an organization that just wants to spread the gospel and encourage and disciple and just fulfill the Great Commission, like here in Maine, but also encouraging people to do overseas missions as well. So during summer camp last year, there was a young lady who came to the camp, and it's been kind of neat as a woman in aviation, because there aren't very many other women in aviation, to be able to kind of encourage other girls to pursue aviation. So I try and make connections, of course, with the ladies at the summer camp, even though there might only be a couple, one or two. But this young lady, we just were doing our normal camp stuff. We were doing flight training, and I was kind of just busy about about doing the flight training and ground school stuff during summer camp, which is just a busy week. This young lady, her family were not believers. She was not a believer. She didn't really know much about the Lord. And we had these Bible studies each day at camp. And she came up to me after one of the Bible studies, and she started asking some of just really neat questions like that. It just showed she was really paying attention and wanted to learn about the Lord. It's very like specific questions, and it was one of those moments where I kind of was like, Lord, how do I answer this? I don't, even some questions that challenged me that I was like, I don't really know the answer to that. Let's dig in the Word of God. And so I was able to show her a couple of scriptures to just try and answer her questions. But it was really cool to see in like a tangible way, a young lady, a teenager who wasn't a Christian, who hadn't been raised in a Christian family, to be able to have heard through these Bible studies that we were doing at camp. It wasn't like, sometimes we're all exhausted during the Bible study and it's like, is anyone even paying attention? But it was just neat to see that she was really paying attention, alert enough to not only be listening, but to want to ask questions later on in the day. And it was such a neat opportunity to be able to speak to her about the Lord. And she ended up, I don't know if she gave her life to the Lord or not, but it was just awesome to see like those seeds were being planted, and they really were being planted, not just falling on hard ground. So it's pretty sweet opportunity there. I would say prayers more than anything else. And yeah, for folks who are here local in the Maine area, if you want to get involved and volunteer, even if it's just once or twice here and there, we would love to have some more hands on deck in any way, even if it's just to come out and help us clean up stuff or do some basic, or just help build relationships with teenagers. That's a big one. So volunteers, prayers more than anything, volunteers, and certainly, donations if you're unable to come out and help and you want to get involved. That's a huge blessing as well. Aviation's not a cheap, it's not a cheap field to be in. So to have people funding us and helping us keep the airplane in good condition and all those things is very, very much a blessing. So I would say those are the three main things. If you're interested, if you're a teenager and you're interested in getting involved in aviation, if you've done a flight or never done a flight before, we do free discovery flights. If you've never flown in a small airplane before, we'd love to give you a little taste of what that looks like. And if you want to pursue it further, please get in touch with us. We have summer camps during the summer. We have a summer camp usually every year, and that lasts a week long, that we do actual flight training, not just discovery rides, but actual flight training that you can log in your logbook and count that towards your pilot's license in the future. So we do a summer camp. We'd love to have you get involved. Even if you're not sure if you want to pursue aviation, if it's like, I don't know, it's kind of scary or I'm not really sure, come out and just try it out. Like, it's always a good thing to try something new. And if you hate it forever, well, that's okay. Not everyone has to fly, but at least you can say you've tried it and you got to fly in an airplane. And so feel free to get in touch with us, and we'd love to meet you and get to know your story, and love to get you involved in aviation if that's what the Lord would have for you.